Thank you, sir. This started with Hillary Clinton and the reset button, right? Right. Hillary Clinton hit that big smile on her face, right? Hit that reset button with the Russians. What did we get? What we got was an emboldened, taunting Russian dictator in return for us hitting the reset button with Russia. So first off, you got to wonder about her, right? No wonder about that judgment, right? So listen, I'm not going to be a guy who's going to sit across from Vladimir Putin when I'm president, pound the table, and yell and scream. Doesn't make any sense. Vladimir Putin's not a dumb man. He can get to be the leader of Russia by being stupid. So I assume he will understand that when I sit across from the table at him and I look at him and say, listen, we got to get back on the right track here. Don't test me, please. It's not going to be good for the Russian people. It's not going to be good for the American people. You care about your people. You care about their safety, their security, their economic future. Let's work together. But I have limits to my patience. And I understand that President Putin needs to do certain showing off because, you know, oil's down at like 40, 45 bucks a barrel and, you know, the economy is what it should be over in Russia and he wants to stay in power. I understand all that. But he needs to hear a candid conversation from a president of the United States who he knows means what he says and says what he means. And right now, the biggest problem is he doesn't believe Barack Obama. I forget about whether he's afraid of Barack Obama or intimidated. That's not the issue. I don't want Vladimir Putin to be afraid of me. I don't want Vladimir Putin to be intimidated by me. I just want him to believe me. That when I look him in the eye and I say, Mr. President, no further. Stop now. Okay, I mean it. I want him to look in my eye and say, okay, I know he means it. He'll make whatever decision he's going to make, but he'll know I mean it. Right now, when Barack Obama says, I'm going to draw a red line in Syria and none happen, when he says, you know, we're going to deal with the situation in Libya and it doesn't happen, when he says we're going to destroy and degrade ISIS, and then he says, well, honestly, we don't have a plan for ISIS. All right. By the way, we're not the only people who read the newspapers. So is Vladimir Putin. He looks at this circus and he says, come on, this guy, this is the moment. This is my moment to take advantage. He is taking advantage of a weak American moment led by a weak American president. The same way, by the way, the Soviets took advantage in Afghanistan when they had a weak American president in Jimmy Carter. The same way the Iranians took advantage in 1979 when we had a weak American president in Jimmy Carter. This guy is more like Jimmy Carter than any of us would ever have wanted to believe. And we're seeing different people on the world stage do exactly the same thing that their predecessors did 36 years ago. When did it change? When Ronald Reagan came into office and he looked across at these folks and said, not now, right? Not now. Ronald Reagan didn't start a war in this country. Ronald Reagan didn't start a war in this country. He didn't have to go around. Remember all the stuff they said, because I remember Reagan was my first vote. I turned 18 in September of 1980, and I got to vote that November for Ronald Reagan. And you remember that campaign, right? He was the crazy cowboy movie actor who was going to put the world into nuclear war, right? You can't trust that crazy actor with his finger on the button. I remember all this stuff that they were saying about, the media was saying about him at the time. He turned out to be a president who contributed more to peace than any president in my lifetime. And he did it through strength. He did it by letting the Soviets at the time know, tear down this wall. We're for freedom. Trust but verify. Very simple, direct things that, I mean, if you ever want to read a great book, read the book that Ken Edelman put out recently on Reagan's time in Reykjavik with Gorbachev. They talk about how Gorbachev was exasperated at one point because Reagan said trust but verify so many times. And Gorbachev's like, I get it, I hear you, I get it. Reagan's like, no, you don't, because this deal is not trust but verify. So you don't get it. You hear me, but you don't get it. We need a president, again, who's going to be direct and plain and means what he says and says what he means. And that's the way the world will get back into a sense of greater order. But until we do, it is a very, very dangerous place. And we got to get that back. So that's the way I would deal with it. All right.